Guess we're
Pardon me.
recording.
Are we recording?
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. I'll actually just do this trick.
The 1 ear trick.
The 1 ear trick.
The old razzle Taz.
Cool. This is episode 4 of our podcast.
Oh, yeah, shit.
You got to get me episode 3.
I sent it to you.
When did you send it to me?
Are
you sure you sent it to me?
Yeah, I sent it to you last night.
Okay. No, okay, that makes sense. I haven't released it yet then, but I haven't been doing much on my phone since like midday yesterday. But we have our first guest. It is and we mentioned we said we might have him on the podcast. Tommy Sinbazo
Hi.
is here. Yes.
Hi. Yeah. Whenever you need me, Mike, I'll be there.
No, you're on. I don't do a solo introduction. You're here with us. Well,
Hey.
that is part of what we don't really plan too much. Part of the theme of the show is figuring out the podcast. We kind of had the idea of just having a free form podcast, but maybe as we went along, it would get more specific or we would have our own something. But initially it was like just, we wanted to have a broad, and we're like, you know what? Let's just start doing it.
Hold on.
Are we okay?
All right, now my mic's recording.
Okay.
There we
Mike
go.
wasn't recording. So everything you said up until then.
Where you apologize profusely for letting Mike down? You'll never hear it again, Mike.
No, I won't. No, I won't do
How
that.
concerned should I be about getting breathing in asbestos from your soundproof?
That's all. It's all rock wool. It's
Okay.
100% natural, so
Nice.
you're safe.
Nice.
You're not going to get
I'm
sick.
going to go huff it and get mesothelioma.
Or at least I'm going to say that so you can't sue me later.
So one thing that is cool in you are our first guest. So it's kind of a figuring out how we're handling a guest on the show. We haven't done that before. And also you are somebody who has been a part of 2 podcasts. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah.
I kind of talked about it.
Meanwhile, at the Skull Base.
Okay, and then tell me the other one.
And the other one is Laugh Finder.
Laugh Finder. I said that wrong. Well, I think I said it right, but I didn't say the name of it right. So that's good. But the reason I bring that up is because I think at the start of the show we kind of talk about our experience podcasting, and we talk about the things that we're reflecting on past episodes or just kind of ideas for the future. But since you're our first guest on and you have 2 podcasts, do you still currently have 2 or just the one?
Just the one.
Okay.
Until Brian writes more scripts, it's just the one.
That's Laugh Finder?
Well, we did. Meanwhile, at the Skull Base, my buddy Brian Preston, fellow comedian Brian Preston, he actually wrote a comic book, and but it takes a lot of money, a lot of capital to get a comic book started.
Yeah. Because you got to illustrate it and write it and publish it and put all.
It never went anywhere. And then he was like, "Hey, do you want to read this comic book?" Like, gave me a script. And usually, like when you have comedian friends, are like, "Hey, read this." I'm like, I don't want to fucking read this.
Fuck that.
I got to lie to him, tell him it was great.
Yeah.
But I read it.
Kind of like this podcast. Come in and, this is fucking fun.
No, this is cool. Great studio, guys.
Yeah.
But it was actually really good. It was really funny. And so that was sitting in the back of my head that Brian had this nice thing that, wasn't doing anything with. And one of the first times I was a guest on 98 Rock back when Mickey was on.
Yeah.
They actually approached me. One of the producers was starting a podcast network and wanted me to do a podcast.
Greg the Douche.
Yeah. And I didn't want to do a talking head podcast. I didn't want to do just guys sitting around talking about what happened that week.
The worst.
No, it's just because there's so many of them.
I know.
But then I was like, I asked Brian, I was like, hey, could you turn that comic book into a script, and we'll just do it as an old time radio. It's this old time radio comedy drama about supervillains working for this evil organization, and we found a guy, Rex Anderson, who was our sound guy, and he put like a whole soundscape behind it and everything.
Oh, really?
We did
In like post?
Yeah, in post.
Nice.
So it's this. It's kind of like you ever see the cartoon Venture Brothers? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's kind of like Venture Brothers, but it's an audio drama.
Is it pretty production heavy? Like, how long does it take him to do
I mean,
everything after it.
We recorded the whole 3rd season over a weekend.
Wow.
And then like 3 months later, he was like, here's the final product.
So it's a very extensive thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. How long did it take you to do the third or record the third
We
season?
actually rented a studio space in Hamden. And it was 3 recording sessions because we would knock out 2 episodes at a time. It was only 6 episodes in the season. And you can find that at skullbase.net.
Is that the podcast network that you're on?
No, we will see. Okay. So Greg the Douche wanted us to be part of his podcast network, and we had a lot of production meetings. But there was a guy whose company was named Biker Lube, right? Mm-hmm. And what if I said Biker Lube? What is Biker Lube to you? You're thinking like
probably a shop.
Yeah.
You take your bike in,
or like motor oil for
get an oil change or something.
You couldn't be further. It was sex lubricant
for bikers.
Yeah, and the guy sold like dildos and everything.
Just a bunch of leather daddies.
What did biker have to do with it?
I have no fucking idea.
Did it seem biker themed?
Maybe no. How is a lube biker themed?
Well, it's in the name.
Yeah,
just
it said use on your old lady's hole.
That's for them to figure out. Biker lube is
wait. The slogan was "Use on your old lady's."
No, but that's
God damn it! I wish it would have
been. I mean, yup. That's what it was. But the contract said that if we signed it, he owned all the intellectual property, like all scripts and everything. And this was Brian's comic book. And so we were like, if you rewrite this so you don't own our scripts, we'll sign. And he was like, I'm not going through all that. I just won't do any. We'll just have an agreement that you can. And Brian was like, no, I'm not giving him the scripts for the comic book that I wrote. So we ended up. Rex Anderson and a couple of the other guys in Baltimore that all had podcasts, they were like, let's start our own podcast network and we'll call it Thunder Grunt.
Yeah.
And it was a collective of all these Baltimore podcasts. And that ran its course it ran for maybe a year or two. And we had live shows and everything.
Yeah, because I was listening to one actually earlier today. It was the digression sessions.
Yeah, digression sessions.
Yeah.
With Josh Caderna and numerous co-hosts.
Yeah, I was trying to do some pre-show research.
We've both been on that. Yeah. You've been on that a couple times.
Yeah. I love Josh.
And then he's like, "Happy 2015." I'm like, oh fuck.
Yeah. Thunder Grunt. Yeah. So, so the network it kind of folded. It of no fault of its own. It was just the people on the further end of it that were doing all the production, they were just like, look, it's a lot of work for us.
Yeah.
And so now it's pared down to where Thunder Grunt is just 3 podcasts. And then so we left there and started doing our own thing. And yeah, we're not opposed to another network, but if
how's that work? Well, what's the structure of being a part of a podcast network?
Basically all your shows, they get aired, they get promoted through the network.
Yeah. And so they're like your pipeline into
you could do total ad numbers for analytics and everything. Basically Thunder Grunt, if you got a sponsor, that's great. That money goes right to you and your podcast. It wasn't divvied out through anybody else.
Okay, so the company doesn't take a cut of that?
Yeah, they didn't do a cut. They
but
just
it could
wanted...
be different. In general, if you're asking how it works, it could be different podcast to podcast. I mean, there's no written law.
How you structure your contract with
Thunder Grunt was formed with the idea in mind that we didn't want to get fucked by a biker lubricant guy.
Yes.
You didn't want to lube up your old lady's hole.
Lube up your old lady hole.
Greg the Douche's thing had some weird stipulations too, right? I don't recall exactly what it was. He wasn't Thunder Grunt, was he?
No.
So you were originally going to partner up with him. I mean, I'm not throwing him under the bus. I mean, every business has its model, but he had some weird things. Am I correct?
Oh, yeah.
It was like they own certain rights, percentages, things go in, and he had some, it was different.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's not the norm.
It was more aimed towards a profit-generating thing.
So your show has to generate profit, and then if the company ends up getting paid, then you get paid. Is that kind of?
I think that was kind of how it worked with them.
You get a cut of,
or they would say, hey, we have this sponsor, we have this network sponsor. Put this ad at the end of your episode or a bumper in the middle.
So it was just like a general sponsor, and then if you had your own sponsor coming in, you could put that in, and then you would see all that.
No, we had to clear with Greg the Douche's one. I believe no sponsor was just ours. We would bring it in. The network, the Biker Lube guy would have to approve it, and then so everything went through them. We couldn't sell our own ads.
Okay.
Yeah. But with Thunder Grunt, it was all aimed more towards we're a collective. Let's see what the collective power can get us sponsor-wise and event-wise. And we had some pretty cool live events that were all recorded, and then you could just air these live segments from things that we recorded at the wind-up space and everything.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that... So the last season of Meanwhile the Skull Base wasn't on Thunder Grunt. Or no, it was. And then I believe the beginning of Laugh Finder, which me and another comic approached me with an idea. He said, hey, I want to do a live Dungeons & Dragons show where comedians play Dungeons & Dragons. And I said I might be able to find... He wanted to do it as a live show. I wanted another podcast, so I was like, "Hey, you wanted to do a live show? Let's combine our forces, and we'll do a podcast." And I know exactly who to get because I played Dungeons and Dragons with the same 5 comedians for the past couple of years.
Yeah.
So we grabbed all those guys and we started gathering equipment and started recording Laugh Finder episodes. And then the comic who wanted to do the live show, Colin Baker, he was. When he said that he'll do the podcast, he had a 6-month timer that he was moving to LA at the end of 6 months.
So you just had to bust it out within that time.
Well,
he's still doing comedy in LA, by the way.
Yeah. I'm sure he's doing pretty good. I have no hard feelings with Colin, but he may not like me
Okay,
because he didn't want to put in as much. His approach to the podcast was going to be episodes come out whenever, a real laid back approach.
Yeah.
But I had just come from doing. From Thunder Grunt, where we had a network where it's like, okay, pick a day. That's when your episodes come out.
Hardworking, disciplined.
I wanted to bust out. I don't half-ass things. And I wanted to bust it out.
What does Colin do? No, I'm joking.
Yeah.
God, Mike's trying to start another fucking feud.
No, he worded it very nice. He worded it well.
It's a very sticky
situation. That was
situation.
me, Colin. I said that shit. What are you going to do about it?
I'm sure Colin's doing great things out
Come
in
on,
LA.
motherfucker.
Mike's going to slap you in the face and tell your girlfriend to lick up some cum somewhere.
Jesus.
But so when Colin left for LA, we finished out the first season of Laugh Finder. And I had to fight to get I wanted an in-studio sound effect guy. So now the show is a guest comes on, we interview him for like 20 minutes, and then the rest of the hour is playing Dungeons and Dragons with them as they play a character and an ongoing story that changes into whoever they want.
Yeah, I was actually, I was watching today, the one with Sonny Fuller.
Yeah, Sonny's good. And so first... 3 seasons were we did. Okay, season 1, fantasy role-playing game, very bare bones because we were figuring everything out.
Yeah.
Season 2,
perfect.
Season 2 was more, we now knew what we were doing. By then I had built us a studio. We had, everything went great, fantasy role-playing. Season 3, we switched it up to a space adventure, and at the end, I wanted to spot, local musicians and nerdcore music, nerdy music, and it got to a point where I was just any music I would just slap it. It was called the weekly outro, where our audio guy would describe the band, tell where you can find more of their music, and just play a song.
Oh, that's cool.
Mastermind. You masterminded all this shit, and you told them I want it this way, I want it that. We're not doing it this way. Look at you, dude. I didn't know he did. I wasn't sure your involvement.
Oh yeah, I had a little bit.
Fucking
of a
Tommy Soprano just running this shit.
So fourth season, at the end of 3rd season, we lost our longtime member Jim Meyer.
Rest in peace.
No, he's
with like the travel.
He's in a better place now.
Right?
Yeah, with his family. No, Jim was having some family problems, and he very big of him. He took a sabbatical, and then we had just moved on, and I didn't think he was ready.
Him.
How dare you say that?
No,
Jim was
Jim's
an integral
hilarious.
part of the show.
He's hilarious.
I didn't see that throat cut.
On mic, Jim was great. It was production wise. It was the only issues I had with Jim was off mic.
I love Jim.
But so
we should get Jim. He'd be a good guest.
Jim would be a good guest, and a good excuse to get out of the house.
Yeah,
For
he'd
him
love to do it.
or for
He's-
us?
Jim. No, you'll want to leave him here.
And then Mike and I will go out.
When he leaves, you'll be like, I get it now.
We'll just put the mic on record,
Yeah.
and Mike and I will go out and get something to eat.
No, Jim's great on mic.
He's good. He's good.
So, but then fourth season, I'd always wanted to do a video show. I'd always wanted to be like a YouTube channel. So I bought 2 GoPros. I took a month off of comedy to learn Premiere Pro. And so now fourth season, we have tomorrow. This week will be adding our 15th episode to our YouTube channel.
So do you handle all that like production and editing?
The video I do. The audio is Ben Hancock, comedian Ben Hancock. Ben takes care of everything. Ben handles our Patreon. And there are times where Ben will make some. I'd never tell Ben no. If I just let Ben do whatever he wants. But there have been times when I've been like, hey, maybe. Because we started this thing where if you wrote us a 5-star review, Ben would read it on the podcast, but he'll put it at the end. And the only direction Ben got was, hey, just read this 5-star review.
Yeah.
Ben then sits down and creates a skit, a scene. There was one where it was a school principal, like where you hear like a cafeteria, and he's like, all right, kids, hold on. I got to tell you all about this 5-star review from blah, blah, blah. And he'll do so, and that's low end of what Ben will do. There was one that you could hear sounds of a battlefield. And then you hear like, Sarge, I'm real scared, Sarge. I don't think we're going to make it. Like, we're going to make it, Private. Don't you worry about it. We're going to make it. Like, Sarge, I just want to say, oh. And like you hear a gunshot. And he's like, Sarge, I'm hit. I think I'm dying. He was like, no, boy, you're going to make it, boy. He's like, Sarge, could you do something for me? I never had my dick sucked, Sarge. I never had my dick sucked. And he was like, what? You ain't never had your dick sucked? I'll suck your dick, Private. And starts sucking his dick, and the guy dies while he's sucking his dick.
This is the Yelp. He's reading the 5-star
This is a
Facebook.
5-star review. And
But did somebody actually? Oh, was it?
no, this was we didn't have a review, so Ben was left to his own devices.
He was just making shit
It
up.
just did one where a sergeant sucks this guy's dick.
I
as
thought
he's
he was
dying.
about to be Sergeant. I got to tell you about this podcast I've been listening to.
Just
And then read the
a
review.
World War I soldier dying on the battlefield.
Like,
Who's
what hell of a setup we got coming here.
There was someone that gave us a 5-star review, but said that we didn't know the rules of the game very well. And when people bitch about the rules of the game, we call them rules Nazis.
Yes.
They can either be a rules Nazi or a rules lawyer. And Ben took the rules Nazi approach, and it starts out with like, world on parade. Allied forces have attacked, and here we go. We hear a speech from Adolf Hitler himself, and actually played Hitler's Nuremberg audio while Ben read this guy's review as
and
the
Hitler's
translation
just
of what
screaming
It
in
is
the
at the end of the
background.
show. At least it's at the end of the show.
And I was like, hey, Ben, could we not call our listener Hitler? And I was like, maybe go lawyer. So he made another whole one that was him as a court, as like a lawyer, like, oh, you all know, like dabbing his face as a lawyer. And meanwhile, I messaged that listener. I was like, hey, just to let you know, I changed Ben's mind on it, but we did have you as Hitler, as a rules Nazi. And he was like, I fucking love that idea. So the next week we played the one where he was Hitler.
Yeah,
It's a running bit now. You just get Hitler recur.
Yeah, it's all Hitler. Hitler's
That's all he does now. The Hitler wrap up.
the last 10 minutes with Hitler, with Adolf.
Hey, everybody, welcome to Hitler's Hot Takes.
Hitler's hot takes. Ben, if you're listening, you have full reign to just take it and run with it.
yeah.
Go as far as you want on the show.
But we had, now that we're doing video, whenever one of the cameras dies or I fuck up and take a picture instead of hitting record, I've had to take the isolated audio and I had to learn Adobe Character Animator.
And like put
I've
it back behind
animated.
it.
Yeah, I've animated parts of the episode.
Oh, shit.
That's impressive. It leads into something I wanted to talk to you about, but I'm going to ask you a couple questions
Is
first
it about my
podcasting.
Asperger's?
Yes.
It might be.
My doctor, I don't know if she was joking or not, but
We were going to save that a little later. It's very
Yeah,
touching to have
we're going to get into autism later.
Yes.
We don't like to come out of the gate with
We support
autism,
though,
but
dude.
then
No worries. We're
Yeah.
not going to make fun of you or anything.
we got
Right.
bracelets and shit.
I don't know if she was right.
Puzzle piece.
I don't believe her.
No. All right.
Do the puzzle piece handshake.
Because you're one puzzling piece, am I right? Sorry. Question about podcasting. If you could just, a couple bullet points, and this is what I would say probably is the more accessible side of podcasting for listeners who don't actually care about having their own podcast, like hear about. What are just a couple general things that if you could go back now and tell yourself in the beginning, what would make you a better podcaster? What would you tell your old self? Or are there just a couple of recommendations that the average person might overlook or put too much emphasis? Anything. Any
Quality.
direction.
Number one is quality.
Okay.
Don't try to have people sharing a mic, at your kitchen table. This is actually a really nice setup because you already have your sound dampening and everything.
Well,
this is great.
Well, I'm an
And
engineer, audio engineer on the side, so this is my mixing room where we are right now. So
Nice.
it's pretty dead. It should probably be a little bit more dead.
Yeah.
For like mixing, but
Right now we're recording in Magoobies, in the main room in Magoobies.
Yeah.
And when you don't have headphones on, you can hear the echo. Like there's a huge echo.
Yeah, and when
on
someone
mic, you don't
gets
really hear it.
back off the mic, then that's when you really hear the ambient noise.
Yeah.
That's what I noticed. The one thing of the episode that I watched with
Sonny.
Sonny, when you're far back off the mic, you hear the ambient noise of the room. But
Yeah.
I mean, with the setup that you have, that's
good to keep
a
in mind, though.
non-issue.
Yeah,
So things to make the production better over time would be good. And that even just like something we did, like Steve was on a different mic. He was on your mic. And I do have another one of those lying around, or we'll get one, like another, I guess, condenser mic or whatever. That, and not that that's not, but that style or whatever. It doesn't matter. And I noticed that definitely you sounded better. That was a cleaner sounding when you switched mics. Did you notice that?
Yeah.
I haven't listened to that yet. Or no, I have.
Also-
You were on the second episode.
No,
like you
also it was just comfortability being in front of the
Right.
mic, that just being up on it and not off to the side or sitting too far back. It was just
said. Yeah.
the last episode we
Or
recorded.
too far to the right, or too far to the left, or no, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, just blowing it out.
We have an episode coming up because every time Josh Caderna is on the episode, him and Dorian will beatbox and Aaron will rap, and I want to hear. So we had an episode this week that I just did the audio for the video episode, and the buzz was, so I had to do a noise filter on it.
Yeah,
and I
just-
messaged Ben, and I was like, "What the fuck?" And
You
he
just
was
cut
like,
that low end out.
Yeah, and he was like, "Well, the our cables are, we're cheap cables,
Yeah.
and they're getting older, so they're just picking up buzz." So
Well, that actually all the cables we're using right now, I hand soldered, made these.
really
Yeah, I made that mic that Mike is talking into.
nice. Hey, so I need some new cables. Maybe we can talk later.
Yeah, maybe we can work something out.
Okay. I'll lube up all your old lady holes.
Yeah, micro lube on my old lady's holes.
So, another question for you. This is something just about you in general, and it's a good way just because it kind of is something that makes you you. And I can relate to it in a way. You're a person of many hobbies, right?
Yeah, I can't sit still.
Do you get people who are shocked that you're able to do everything that you're able to do?
Yes, and I think it's only because other people haven't tried to do other things.
I would probably agree with you. There's just something definitely different about somebody like you. So I just wanted to cover. I'll just say what I know about you.
Okay.
You fill in some blanks.
Okay.
Things that like you are probably passionate about or have spent a lot of time of your own time. I know that you're into like the steampunk type stuff so much so that you've made your own guitars out of different things and leather work. And this is give me a year on that hobby. How long you been into that?
Oh, leather work?
And we can circle back specifically with like, but how long have you been doing that stuff?
Leather work, maybe like 11 years.
Okay,
11,
cool.
12 years.
Like
Well, I started LARPing, and then through LARPing, I learned to build my own armor. And then from that, I learned leatherworking. And then for a steampunk, I wanted a big robot arm. But the only way I could think to build it was to actually build an armored arm.
Yeah.
So I built it out of leather, and then I rigged up lighting on it. But the only LED driver I could find was for 12 volts for a car, so I needed a 12-volt pack. And then it came with a key fob to change the lights. So then I made a bracer for the other hand to control the lights, but then I had to I had to solder all the buttons to momentary switches in the palm, and then I learned leather tooling so I could make it look interesting, so I wasn't holding a fob. But yeah, I'll get a project and then I'll just learn.
It's impressive.
I'll just learn everything
No,
I
it
can
is.
about it.
It impresses me a lot. I think
thanks, bud.
Yeah, it's interesting. So that you brought up the LARPing thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's something that not only have you done it, you've been passionate about it, you're involved in it. You are like a ring. You're a leader of the walks that you do. So much so that you're the comedian in Baltimore when you get involved in the scene. The first comic that you hear about headlining these shows, especially when there were a lot of bar show headliners or the people who still occasionally drop into the open mic. It's Tommy Sinbazo. That is and that's no joke. When I open up a new room, because I've produced a handful of shows,
Great
who's
show.
my first guest? Who's my first person? Who's the first guest we chose to have on that's a comic? And you're just somebody that's doing a bunch of stuff and stand-up comedy. You got the podcast. You got a lot of different things going on. So
I just
stand-up
spent
is a
the past
hobby
couple
and a
weekends
profession. But
rebuilding my motorcycle.
yeah, there you go. So the motorcycle. I mean, that's another hobby there. Off of my head. I know. I mean, you're just even the kind of guy that you're into, like the Marvel movies.
Yeah.
You do it up to an extent, and you know about it in a way that some people, they would say they're most passionate about Marvel movies, and you know more about it than they do and live it more than they do. Isn't that? It's odd how when you're good at taking on a lot of things, you'll meet somebody and that is their only thing, and you've taken it further than them, and it's one of your Swiss Army knife of things. I'm not saying it to like talk you up in a way that, but you notice that, right?
Yeah, well, yeah. But I
Not
also like
always.
I do mushrooms and go to the Marvel movies. So
Yeah,
it's
that's
my
another
big,
hobby.
So
But see, that takes time out of your day.
It does.
The
That
mushrooms.
does.
that's like 16 hours out of your day.
No, we do 1 gram
six.
mushroom teas because
Yeah.
over the years I find that's the perfect amount.
Yeah,
to
just
do
a
in
quick
public.
little body trip.
Yeah, well, when you're doing mushrooms over the years, eventually you've
learn.
got to figure out a way to not deal with an eighth of them motherfuckers every time you want to have a little fun. Yeah, that's cool. I mean, that's another thing we mutually have in common. We're interested in psychedelics and that whole realm.
I was kind of hoping your podcast was going to be, yeah, you come over, we do DMT, and then
That
we
is
talk
something.
about it.
When we first brainstormed the idea of crazy podcasts, I don't know exactly what we can do. We definitely should look into it. I would not be against the idea of having somebody, and you would be a great candidate for it,
I'd do it.
to do DMT on the podcast or before or as a part of the show, with or without me. You could either be taken through or whatever, just some sort of breaking the bread with it. That would be a very exciting thing to do for me.
I would listen to it. I'm
Because
dead.
in a
I'm
way,
dead, by the way.
it wouldn't be your first time, but in a way it could be because you've never really struck gold with it in your attempt, right?
Yeah, I've never broken through.
Right.
These headphones died.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, I'm not hearing anything out of them.
What in the
But it's all right. I mean,
It's
you're not
that
playing
hand-
sound effects.
Well,
right? Oh, wait,
Steve
okay, it's
made
something
the
loose.
cable.
Oh, never mind. You're off the
No,
cable.
No, he
project.
just turned
No,
it up.
I didn't make the
I'm
headphone
joking.
cables. I made the mic cables.
Oh, okay.
So we're still capturing audio
Well,
gold.
let me ask you, what is the benefit of maybe buying those cap things with the magnets on them to put around the cable? Does that do anything?
What magnets?
There's these things. You can put on your cable, and they have magnets that go around the cable, and they're supposed to lessen
Like
picking
radio
up buzz.
radio frequencies.
Yeah. What if I just built a Faraday cage for each individual cable?
Oh, you can go ahead and do that. if you do that and it works out, let me know, and then
No
you can
one
build
move.
me.
No move in this tiny Faraday cage. Well, wait. So then, if you did a copper braided sleeve to put over it, would that act like a Faraday cage?
I don't know what the fuck a Faraday cage is.
Boom,
Oh.
Tommy. Jeez, he's just taking it to another level.
Sorry, I thought this
He
was
said
your
part
thing.
time. He's on his side. He does
Yeah,
that. Come on.
I'm a hobbyist.
Come on, he's not a. Christ, you're over here talking. You're making robot arms.
Yeah, or like taking a key fob and turning it into a pressure point.
Look, what else
Like
am
the
I supposed
fuck
to
do
do
you
when I get
Google?
high?
You wear Google out, dude. Me and you do a number on Google.
You and Mike are overloading Google.
I just like to watch. I get high and I like to binge watch
YouTube?
videos and just gain knowledge when I'm high.
It is fun.
Yeah.
You know, all right. What is like one of the weirdest, one weird rabbit hole? I'll go first with one that I thought of. One time, for a while, my favorite thing to look up until it got just too real was I liked watching people who were what they call leaking. Do you know what that's slang for when you're leaking? When you're wet? When you're stuck? PCP. That is the craziest looking shit I've ever seen. YouTubing videos of people fucked up on PCP, and there's a bunch of dudes around the street, and the one guy just he starts moving and he's making noises, and then he gets stuck. And he won't move, and he's in a bizarre position. And they're like, man, he's leaking, he's stuck. And then the guy's fucking he's got the shaky leg. And then all of a sudden they take off and start jumping on cars, and cops can't fucking stop them. They want to get naked. They're
zombies.
They're zombies and stop moving, but then they just got energy like meth and crack times a million.
Oh, man.
Apparently, PCP is kind of psychedelic too.
Yeah, PCP sounds amazing, but then when you watch people on it,
when you see the end result of smoking PCP, you're like, you know what? I probably don't want to do that.
Yeah, that's there's. So, do you ever hear gypsum weed?
No,
Devil's apple.
I've heard of it.
Gypsum weed.
Okay, so there's this weed that grows here in Maryland. I used to see it all the time when I was a surveyor. But it's like a long stem and then like a barbed bulb on top of it with a thing coming off of it.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's called gypsum weed. And it is a heavy fucking psychedelic. Like there's a story from back in the Civil War where this platoon ran out of rations. So they just gathered up all this gypsum weed and ate it, made a soup out of it and ate it to sustain themselves. And then no one heard from this platoon for 3 months. They couldn't find this platoon.
Tripping balls in the fucking woods.
They go and find them, and they had went feral. And they're naked, monkey men living in the woods. And it swells up your urethra, so you can't piss. There's all these side effects, downsides.
That sounds terrible.
But if you read everyone's recount of them tripping on it, it almost follows the same thing where they don't know that they're tripping, and someone will come in, quote unquote someone just comes into the room. Hey man, we're all outside. And so you go outside and you're standing in a circle with all dead friends that you haven't seen in a long. And
what?
Everyone has a recount where there's passing a cigarette around, and then they'll drop the cigarette and can't find it.
This is real?
Yes, look it up. If you look up gypsum weed.
You can look up bloodstains that have never been washed away, and you can look up ghost stories that.
Well, look, it was
Mike, get on your fucking phone. This is what we were talking about.
Right, let me get up.
This is what
catheter on Amazon, and I'll try it.
We were having this conversation on Friday about coming in with Google, Mike being the Google king. And having a guest in, and then if there's something that comes up,
I don't think we need a fact. I mean, we can fact if we really want. It's not that I don't believe.
Look, I'm not trying to impress you guys.
No. See, he's misconstruing what I'm saying. I 100% believe it. I'm just saying, is this something that is can you find a dealer? Can you buy this online?
It sounds like you got to just find it in the woods.
And it just grows in Maryland still to this day.
Yes.
Okay, that's all I was curious about. Is this something that?
But it's very dangerous. You shouldn't even touch the leaves because you'll get. And
it's weed.
Yeah.
It's not weed, or is it weed?
It's not cannabis. It is
weed.
There we go.
Weed.
Okay. I missed that a little bit.
But on topics where going down rabbit holes, right? I just did the Paco's Got Balls podcast with those guys. And they put me in the hot seat where they're supposed to ask you these questions. And they did fuck, marry, kill. And I think they thought they were going to stump me because they're like, all right, Tommy, look at these 3 sex dolls. Fuck, marry, kill. And I was like, what's the centimeters on them? And they're like, what? And I was like, what's that? 163? I'm not fucking anything less than a 172. And they're like, what is that, vaginal? No, it's height, you idiots. And I was like, hey, go to this website, pull up this, and I'll show you my favorite. I knew way too much about sex dolls.
Do you have
one?
It
really no, because I have
just
a
done a
fiance.
lot.
He's
just done a lot of research.
Yeah, he wants to know about things.
Yeah, I if I didn't have a fiance, my house would look like a wax museum with all these sex dolls. I'd dress them up so you think, oh, is that Harriet Tubman? And I'm like, yup.
Yeah, definitely haven't fucked her.
Harriet Tubman's fucking dummy thick.
Damn. What's the most? Well, I do want to go. So YouTube videos has something to do with. Is there any? What's your favorite video style? to go down? Rabbit hole. If you get caught up or wild.
I kind of like the comic book ones.
Comic books.
The ones where they'll explain whole story arcs in comics, and then, or guys will talk about speculations about the new Marvel movies coming out and stuff.
Yeah.
And I'll just watch video after video of that. Like Hishi, the How It Should Have Ended, where they animate how they think a movie should have ended. Or Epic Rap Battles of History.
That's fun.
Those?
Yeah, that's
They're
a good channel.
I've never heard that.
It's classic.
That was one of the Epic Rap Battles is one of the most subscribed to channels on YouTube.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they got some good ones. Like Mythbusters versus Ghostbusters. That's my favorite.
It's like scripted rap battles, but it's like acted. It's cool.
It's
like
heavily
sketchy.
edited.
Is it like a lot of production behind
Very.
it too?
It looks great. Yeah, it's high. They get some big people on it now too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They had Charlie Tuna from Jurassic 5 was on one of them.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah.
He was on the Bill Nye versus Isaac Newton, which was had Weird Al was Sir Isaac Newton.
Well, there you go, Weird Al. Pretty big.
Oh, I like how Charlie Tuna impressed you, but Weird Al.
Yeah, we are.
No,
Weird Al just goes, we're right over top.
No, I was
Al.
actually saying Weird
Charlie
Al's
Tuna,
like, no,
cool
Weird
as
Al's
shit.
a
Weird
giant
Al.
name.
Fuck it.
No, I was opposite. I mean, I like Jurassic 5, but I mean, Weird Al's Weird Al. He's pretty damn famous.
And this was like right when his last album came out that he won the Grammy for or whatever. So I mean, he was.
Hold on, wait. Going back to Weird Al.
Weird Al won a Grammy? No, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Is it you and Eric Woodworth that do
the
the
Amish Para guys.
Yeah. What do you do?
We decided
they're a parody of a parody.
we're a Weird Al. We call ourselves a Weird Al cover
my
band
God,
called
dude, that's
Amish Para
great.
Guys. And whenever we're out of town for a murder mystery and we go do karaoke, we'll sing we'll get up and do a duo of a weird, like we'll sing a Weird Al song to the regular song. And if people are like, they're like, do you like the original? We're like, what are you talking about?
Oh my God.
This
Yeah,
is
the Weird Al one. Yeah.
which,
So you guys do the Weird Al one.
Yeah. So, but they went down to Mexico for Joe Robinson's wedding.
Yeah.
And apparently I saw a video where they had karaoke in the resort and in the lobby, and they would just project the words up on a wall in the lobby, and it's Eric singing Yoda, like the Weird Al song, which is our song.
Yeah.
And there was some other guy behind him,
our
like
song.
dancing.
Did you feel cheated
Yeah,
on?
he said me, and I was like, wow.
Of all,
What a way to find out that I've been replaced, you piece of shit.
You're
of all the Weird Al songs he could have done.
Yeah, he had to do
Yoda
ours.
with him. With some random.
But as Eric says, he was just drunk. He was singing Yoda, and this guy friend.
Being drunk is not an
Yeah,
excuse.
he cheated on me.
Yeah.
Dude, there's a
I
Weird
feel
Al
bad
song.
for you, dude.
Thanks.
Do you remember Larry? That
Yeah.
was the name. Dude, that song. There's like a Weird Al song that's pretty twisted. Kills a bunch of people in it, I think.
Yeah, there's also one called "Those Were the Good Old Days" where he talks like reminisces, and there was one where he's talking about this girl Michelle that he went to high school with. What was it? It was like, I remember Sweet Michelle. She was my high school romance. She was fun to talk to and nice to smell, so I took her to the homecoming dance. Then I tied her to a chair and I shaved off all her hair and I left her in the desert all alone. Oh, sometimes it seems I can still hear her
I
screams.
know that, yes.
Oh, I wonder if she ever made it home. And as a kid, I remember like, gee, that's kind of fucking dark.
That's a Weird
Yeah.
Al song?
Yeah. Damn, how much time have you spent memorizing Weird Al lyrics?
I don't know. It just turned when we did the 2-week tour overseas. I didn't even know that Eric liked Weird Al, and then Rob was like, "Hey, why don't you guys sing me a Weird Al song?"
Joe's a big Weird Al fan.
Joe, surprisingly, Joe likes "They Might Be Giants" more than he likes Weird Al.
I believe that.
Yeah,
I cannot see him liking Weird
but
Al.
Joe likes all the old "They Might Be Giants" stuff. So I'm kind of like, all right.
We should say that you're tied in with the murder mystery Die Laughing production.
Yeah, but so that's how we spent most of our time. Is if we were walking across base, Rob would like, "Give me another song," and it turns out that Eric knows just as much Weird Al as I do, and even so much knows the pitch change. Oh man!
So then you two weirdos just start.
We would just start singing.
Just a cover band of a parody.
Oh, are there any other big hobbies? Are there any other things that you've like really taken up that maybe people wouldn't even know?
Let me see. I did the guitar for a while. Well, I was learning guitar. Learned guitar for a year and a half, and then I had to build superhero suits for a murder mystery. So then I had to stop learning guitar so I could learn how to do all that. Learn Pepakura and foam fabrication. Yeah, but now AutoCAD, all sorts of stuff. I just
So you're just an engineer.
Yeah, basically. I'm an
engineer hobbyist.
Yes.
I think it's ironic that you, of all people, wouldn't want a conversation podcast.
I know, and
it's too eeasy for you.
It would just because there's just so many of them. No one would listen.
That's true. No, I mean, it's cool that you have a specific thing.
Laugh-Finder has turned into that, where it's getting longer and longer, where half the show is a talking head podcast, and it ends with.
And I was kind of thinking that, like, as this conversation has been progressing and the stuff that I had heard earlier, it's like the first 15 minutes or 15 to 30 minutes is you guys bullshitting with whatever the guest is, and then you jump into the game.
Yeah, and what I like about it is a lot of times when we jump into the game, the riffs that we do while we're in the game refer to, the conversation that we just had with. Yeah. So it's all tied in. Like Sonny, we had Sonny on, and all of us, Aaron Hinken brought up that all of us have Sonny impressions while Sonny was there. And Sonny, and they were like, he was like, let's hear some of your Sonny impressions. And Sonny was like, I don't sound like that man. And I was like, I don't sound like that man. So we all went around talking about doing Sonny impressions. That was pretty good.
I just thought of something. If you did DMT on Laugh Finder, you guys would be playing Jumanji. The Jumanji Finder. Found Jumanji. Definitely
I don't want to do DMT in the showroom at Magooby's.
No.
That would be kind of creepy.
It's a quick trip, though, isn't it?
Pretty quick, man. I will tell you this. The more times you've done it, or if you're used to kind of like in a peak on like a mushroom trip, if you're used to kind of looking for more and taking it further and really exploring the headspace, you might be able to stay there a little bit longer. But when it's like to the nth degree, more than anything you've ever experienced, it is hard not to just snap out of it in a short amount of time. Like we're talking 3 minutes is about, unless you really stick to doing a shitload and just can handle it. If you're doing few hits till you're feeling like a what you think is a full-on DMT trip, it must feel like it because it's by far the most you've ever experienced. You're going to start wanting to snap out of it maybe 3 minutes in. You're going to start describing, oh, my God, it's so crazy. I can't believe it. There's just shapes, colors, and you start talking about it. And then they're like, I think I'm still tripping. And you're like, yeah, you are. So 3 to 5 minutes is probably average in the beginning, but 15 to like 25 is like tops probably.
Now, I know that you had said you were taking a break because shit got too real.
Well,
are you still taking a break?
No, and it's been amazing.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I just had done it a few times in a row to the point where it wasn't crazy and like as full of energy and as vibrant, and it was more normal, and I didn't like that. I like it feeling like a roller coaster, but I always like doing it with other people.
Yeah, yeah.
So I don't know if I really want to do it by myself. Maybe ever again.
On that end of it, right? So we went and saw the new X-Men movie, X-Men Dark Phoenix.
Yes.
Which we weren't looking forward to it. It was kind of boring. There were people that died and I didn't fucking care. But I got baked as shit before we went to the movie theater, right?
Mm-hmm.
And someone else came. It was me, Brian Preston, and someone else. And this other person... he was like, he came late, which is odd because he was bitching about wanting to see it in 3D, so he got the full experience, but then he came to the movie late. But so he sits down and he leans over, he's like, hey man, I got this mushroom capsule. It's like 0.5 grams. You want to take it? And I'm like, nah, dude, I'm just fucking baked. I don't want to waste it on this movie. And he was like, no man, live a little. So I was like, okay. And I took it and I pretended to eat it and I put it in my pocket because I wasn't wasting a mushroom trip on that garbage movie.
Yep. Yeah.
If you don't do it at special occasions, it stops being special.
Yes.
So
what'd you do with the capsule?
Yeah. It's still in my pocket on my vest. I'm going to take it.
Oh, you're not wearing it right now. So
no. I didn't bring
it. What you were motioning.
I was playing with my nipple. I have very small nipples.
That's really?
Do you want to see?
Sure.
All right.
I got big nipples.
Check that out.
Oh my God.
Don't laugh at me.
No.
It looks like,
he has small areolas.
It looks like a skin graft.
I've always wanted, like, let me see. Now, see, that's a normal size human nipple.
Yours is like a quarter the size of mine.
Mine is like your nipple. My nipple and areola are the size of your nipple.
That is different.
That looks like if you got shot with a paintball gun.
It's not
Were
a nipple.
you
I have
ever
welts.
insecure about it?
I remember the first time I realized that I had oddly small nipples. My sister had friends over, and I was maybe like 13.
Is this the massage therapist sister?
Yes, my massage therapist sister. Before she broke bad, she had a room full of her friends, and I came down shirtless, and I was like, "Hey, ladies," and they were like, "Ah!" and they all laughed at my nipples.
How old were you?
Maybe like 11 or 13-ish.
Because I didn't start becoming self-conscious about my nipples until about maybe 4 years ago.
Why are you that? That's a normal nipple.
Well, then I looked at them. It just kind of caught my eye one day in the mirror. I'm like, these are a little bit bigger.
Are you
than
saying
they
your
should
nipple or your areola is big?
The whole thing.
No, that's about a quarter. That's about the size.
Yeah,
A
that's
dime
fine.
could
It
cover
depends.
my nipple.
It depends. I think it might be a nationality thing. It looks normal. Like if you were.
Wait,
What
what
do you mean a
nationality are you?
Well, I think if
Are
like
you
an Italian.
Polynippian?
No, I think if like an Italian guy was to see his nipples, they'd be like, he's got small nipples.
Italian guys have big nipples.
I think.
I
somebody.
don't know this.
What are
level
your?
of
Let's
racism.
see your nipples.
I got.
Let's see.
Oh,
What's that?
that's a silver dollar.
What's that thing?
Oh, it's a little second. What is that? A little bump?
I don't know. You should be concerned about that. Get that
That's
looked at.
a big nip.
What is that?
It's a big nipple.
Yeah.
You wanna
That's
suck on it?
that's a normal nipple. That's good. That's
It's
good.
fine by me. I don't mind it.
Good. I've seen guys that like they overlap like Olympic rings. They're
Yeah, I mean, I think
Nah,
I think
but
there are
like
guys who
definitely
have
saucer,
considerably
yeah.
smaller normal nipples than me, and then there are guys who have bigger, like uglier nipples. I'm cool with my nipple. I mean, as long as you're not like, honestly, I wouldn't mind having Tommy's nipples. Those are fine nipples. It's big, goofy nipples, especially on a man, looks a little weird.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So there was a trans doorman at Magooby's. I met him as Jack. Knew him as Jack. Jack's a good guy. Whatever.
Started
Started as a woman.
Started as a
Transitioned as a
woman.
man.
was born
Was
a
born
woman.
with a vagina.
Okay.
Born a man, transitioned to woman, now back. But it's
Changed
you
his
don't
mind.
lose trans. You're just another step.
So Jack and I, he's into leatherworking for clearly different reasons than I started. Because he was like, "Oh, you do leather work?" I was like, "Yeah, I LARPed. How'd you get into it?" He was like, "Oh, like BDM bondage stuff." And I was
Yeah,
like,
leather daddy.
Oh, okay.
Type shit.
Well, he just won he's the first trans person to win this Leather Daddy award in like DC. He's very proud. Yeah. But he has pictures on his Facebook wall because when I met him, I knew that Andrew had hired a trans door person, but I didn't think it was Jack. I was like, who's, and so he gave him Facebook friends and a lot of shirtless pictures of him on the thing. And then I saw his nipples and I was like, oh, that was a woman.
Oh, you could tell.
Yeah, he had gumdrops.
Gumdrop
What is that?
nipples.
Like they look like a gumdrop.
Like hanging down or
Like
pointing out?
Look, women's nipples are built different than men's because they serve a purpose.
Well, not
Ours
all
are
of
like
us have seen a lot of women's nipples. Tell us more. No,
Okay.
no.
Imagine a Gatorade cap with a gumdrop on top of it.
Here we go. Here's a Gatorade bottle.
Her nipple, it was just big.
Yeah, it
And
was.
then,
Always hard.
like,
Pointing.
Yes,
like that?
They
That.
botched something and it looked like a chewed piece of gum.
But this is reformed nipple. This is transformed into a male nipple.
I think if they go as far as to have a breast reduction or removal,
Yes.
yeah.
then maybe the doctor should taper the nipple, have a more masculine nipple.
Maybe they fucked it up. I mean, sometimes you look at plastic surgery and you're just shocked that's what they tried to do.
I had an ex-girlfriend. She had breasts that were divined by like Michelangelo had sculpted these himself, right? What?
Were they fake?
No, they were real, 100% real, and they were great. But she tore my heart out, and she was a bitch. And then she got
Fuck
breast
So they
reduction.
were
dude.
fake.
Oh
She
my
got
God.
She got breast reduction, and they fucked up her boobs. And I was like, yes,
Yes.
yes,
Reduction.
yeah. Do you want me to go into that?
No, I know what they do.
What,
Okay.
I've heard of it. I've
What-
heard somebody. I know somebody
like,
who had to have it done.
reduction means make smaller.
But you said she had the best
She did.
boobs ever. It's
She
an
did.
odd candidate to.
They
Which-
were.
okay, so-
Hold on. They were big boobs.
Well, when we first started dating, no, and then 3 years. Okay, so we dated for like a year.
She hit puberty. Once she turned 16,
All
Once-
bets were off.
Once the pubes grew around her penis, it really turned me off. No, but but then she left me saying that she wanted to take a break. 3 months later, was engaged to another guy. I guess she was very happy with this guy because then she started eating and ballooned up. The guy left her at the altar. Yeah.
God.
So, so she lost a bunch of weight rapidly, but still kept these boobs. So then when we were hooking up again, now it was like I was having sex with an ex, but now with like
Salvador Dali.
yeah, with way bigger boobs. Yeah. No, they didn't sag, but I guess eventually they started to sag, and she was self-conscious about her boobs.
Okay.
So she said that she was having back problems, so that her insurance would pay
cover
for
it.
Yeah.
So it's a health
And they
issue at
fucked
that
it up?
point.
And they fucked him up. There was one time I
Is
had
that
to.
that's got to be the greatest revenge.
Yeah, well, I had to cut hard ties with her because I was at the Renaissance Festival, and she was there and got way too familiar with me, my fiance there. And so I had to I had to hard cut ties. So I waited, and there was an opportunity to publicly insult her on Facebook.
So you
and
took
I
it.
just yeah. I said that I heard that like her tits got fucked up. I said that
you went in fucking hard.
I said I heard in the new Human Centipede 3 they remove a curtain and it's just two Asian guys sewn to her breasts.
Oh my God.
I said that like her tits look like two of Freddy Krueger's baby pictures next to each other.
Damn. You know what though? That's good. It feels good to stand up when somebody's like a shitty person, right?
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
You can say whatever you want. We had that conversation in our first episode about a guy that my arch nemesis, no, the bane of my existence.
Mike Finazzo?
No, I'm joking. Colin fucking Baker.
what was the one dude who was talking a bunch of shit?
To me?
Yeah, he was
Walt?
like Walt.
Oh,
yeah,
Walt
Walt.
Ostrowski.
Walt
That's
got
another guy.
diabetes, so there you go.
Go figure.
You're winning, Mike.
Yeah. See him now. Catch me in the cage now. Him and I were gonna like fight or something.
Yeah, that
He told me he was gonna beat me up with a baseball bat. I mean, now if he had a bat, that would be a tough fight.
what's he gonna
And
carry
then
around
you
a
just got to
bat?
get close in.
Yeah, he's slow. He's dopey. You just take the first one to the forearm. Try and do your best.
I hope it doesn't break.
I took
Yeah.
a bat to the forearm once when I cut a guy with a box cutter.
God,
Cut a guy with a
you've
box
lived
cutter?
life,
Do you want to hear
dude.
that story? I'll tell
Yeah.
you.
Yes, I
Okay.
fucking do.
Nah,
like, nah.
boring.
Yeah.
Tell us more
No,
about
no.
Dumb
LARPing.
shit.
Let's
Dumb-
talk about fucking leather
Dumb
work.
shit you want to tell us.
You
Not
got a
interesting.
box cutter story.
Okay, so I grew up in Southwest Baltimore City, and the neighborhood started getting worse and worse. Right,
Which neighborhood?
Lakeland.
Okay.
Lakeland is across the train tracks from Westport.
I never even heard of it.
Yeah, and it's you know where Lansdowne is.
Yeah.
Like, yes.
Okay, so you go Lansdowne, you cross Patapsco Avenue, there's Lakeland. You cross train tracks, there's Westport.
Okay.
And to the right, there's Cherry Hill. Right, but there was a small suburb community.
Not a good area.
Not a
of
good. Well,
Baltimore.
it started being. It was when I was a kid. It was a good area, but right around my teens, it started the urban blight. So I was carrying a box cutter, one of those cheap ones where it was just a metal sleeve.
The orange ones where you like
not
clink
the
it
ones
up.
that had the clink. Even cheaper than that, where it's just a metal sleeve that has a slide arm that you put a razor blade into, and it was in my back pocket. And we're walking home from. It was me and my buddy John, who I have another story about him. He's the guy I sprayed with a super soaker full of piss and cum.
Oh, that's the story I heard about in the Digression Sessions
Yeah.
podcast. That's fucked up.
Yeah,
It's
Thank you.
hilarious
Thank
though.
you. Thank you.
He
But
did the same thing to his ex.
And her shitty nipples.
I sprayed her shitty tits with piss and cum.
I wouldn't even use my real thing. It's just so gross.
yeah, I
had
wouldn't
to
even
just
piss on her.
I
Yeah.
painted a
jacked off
super
the
soaker.
old photos of her into it, and then it's the only way.
when her tits were looking nice.
I
Okay,
wish
so
I
go on.
knew what I jerked off to get that cum. I should have been something gross, like motorcycle accidents
Just
or
the
something.
super soaker. Just you looking at a super soaker.
Hey,
So there was a
we
park.
digress.
There was a park behind my house that had like swings, basketball court, blah blah blah. We're leaving. The park was in the middle of the community, so we're leaving my buddy John's girlfriend's house, and we were going to cut through the park. But there were 15 urban youths.
urban.
Yeah, playing basketball. So we were like, okay, well, we'll go around the park.
Yeah, not even.
We're not going to cut through the park.
Yeah.
So we go around and we get up to the top of my street, and they come walking up from the park. They had finished playing basketball, and I knew a couple of them. So they went my two buddies, they crossed the street, and I walked like between this group and like a wall. And I was like, hey, Antonio. Like, I knew one of them. And then I saw movement out of the corner of my eye, and I turned my head so someone punched the back of my head, and my glasses came off. And I would love to tell you that I was able to beat up 15 people, but surprisingly, no. I ended up on the ground, so I just curled up into a ball. Yeah, eventually, they got tired of kicking me. You know why? Didn't have orange slices. There was nobody to give them orange slices and pickle chips.
Yeah, because they were dehydrated.
Yeah, because they were playing basketball before. Yeah. So they leave, and I get up to get my glasses, and there was one kid left, and he was like, you better turn the fuck around. I was like, I'm getting my fucking glasses. Well, then he runs around the corner, gets that group again, and they come back over. And again,
round two?
Yeah, I'm on the ground. They're kicking me and everything. So then they take off. By the time that ends, my dad is walking up the street with this big, like 4-foot oak cudgel, like this big stick. And my sister was coming with her big mouth. And and we also had a very large dog that would have licked them to death, like a very friendly dog. Yeah. And my dad was like, okay, well, I called the police. Let's follow them at a distance to keep an eye on them for when the police come. So we go up through the neighborhood. Now, this group of 15 met up with another group of 15 right up there by Patapsco Avenue.
So you got 30 coming after you.
So now there's, and we're staying about a block back. But my sister, she was the one like, why y'all motherfuckers got me jumping people like fucking bitches? And they circled her and would attack her like wolves. Like one would come in from behind and punch her.
Beat your sister?
When she would turn, then another would come in and punch her. So my dad goes in. They like 5 of them bum rush my dad and knock him over. And this kid named Beaver, who was like 6'5", he picks up the stick, the big stick, and starts beating my father with it. Right?
You're 6'5", you're not allowed to be in a group of 30 beating people up.
Yeah, so I run in, and he swung once, and I blocked with my forearm, swung twice, blocked my forearm, but this time my hand went into my back pocket, and I grabbed that box cutter. Oh, shit. And the third time I blocked, I stepped in, and I just swiped, just straight across, right? Well, I didn't know. I thought I got his shirt, right? So Beaver stops and drops the thing, and I run over and pick it up. He takes off. I turn. Some kid punches me in the face, and then they scatter like roaches. Cops come. Cop car comes in the thing. And the cop's like, my dad's holding his hand and everything. And I was like, look, I said, I'm sorry. I have this box cutter. I might have cut one of their shirts. And the cop was like, dude, it was self-defense.
Yeah, Baltimore City, BCPD's rolling in. Like,
and he was like,
you're not dead?
Yeah. Your dad and your sister.
So my dad was like, my arm, I think I might.
Wait do you see what we're going to do to him?
My dad was like.
Rough ride.
They were and that's how Freddie Gray lost his life. Now so my dad was like, I think I might have a fighter's fracture because I hit one of them. And then my sister was like, I'm pregnant.
She said that?
Yeah. So we were all like, what? So we all had to go to the hospital. I had to get 2 stitches in my lip. They fixed the abrasion on my arm. My dad was put in a cast because of his fighter's fracture. Turns out my sister wasn't pregnant. But while we're sitting there,
she just had a moment. She thought,
I think one of them made me pregnant. Like that's not
lots of plot twists in your life.
How you get jumped and then you're pregnant.
Heat of battle.
There was 30 of them.
What did you want me to do?
It's a battle, baby.
I wasn't gonna not fuck one of them.
I fucked my way out of that circle. But my buddy Jonathan comes in, the 2 guys that ran, which John had been in like a car accident years before, and he had a fractured collarbone because they jumped him. Yeah. But he came in and he said 66, and I was like, what is that? And he was like, that's how many staples it took to close Beaver's chest. So apparently I got him and just
God, you fucking just laid him open.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
I was like, oh, okay. That's cool.
Good. I'm glad I invited you into my house.
Why, do you have 15 urban youths in the other room? And now here's Beaver. Bring him on. We're surprising you with Beaver. You should see his nipple now.
Playing
It's
Forgive or
cut in
Forget.
half.
Forgive or Forget with Beaver. Can you forgive Tommy?
Yeah,
And Tommy, can you forgive Beaver?
We cool now, Beaver.
He didn't actually get your sister pregnant. It was all
Yeah, it was a miscarriage.
She just running her
it's
mouth.
fine.
It's fine. She had sex with another roaming gang of teens, and that's where my nephew came from.
Oh man.
Oh, cool.
Is
Congratulations.
he listening to the show?
My
Is he out
nephew?
there?
Or Beaver.
Your nephew.
Yeah, maybe.
Cool.
Wherever he is.
Yeah, let's do it. There was another story you wanted to tell, right? Or I can't know. There was something you said that you could tell us, but maybe we forget that. Mm-hmm. There was something but it doesn't matter.
Do you remember what it was? Do you know what it was?
It was right before the Super Soaker thing. You said something, which is a story you said you could tell, but it's not that important. We can always.
I think it was the story you just told.
Yeah,
which is probably going to be better than any story that he was going to tell.
Let me tell you the time that I got a good score on my SATs, guys.
Yeah, let's hear about your leather working.
I studied and I studied.
I didn't even take the SATs.
You didn't?
No.
I took them once. I just took. I never didn't plan for it. I just went one time. One of my friends was taking them. I'm like, I'll take them with you.
I took them twice. One time I was sick, and the other time I forgot my calculator. So did not score very high.
So the second time was pretty bad.
Yeah.
I just went straight into community college.
I was the only guy there, counting on my fingers. Oh, my square roots are.
Oh, so this is a good question for you, and we're going to have Joe on the podcast soon,
Robinson?
I think. He texted me saying he wanted to come on.
Okay.
Or he would come on. I assume that means
He'll come on.
he would come
100%
here.
Joe will.
Do you know the kind of backstory?
Yeah.
He knows enough. I mean, did you listen to the Rob and Joe show?
I did I listen? Yes, I did listen to that episode.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, he knows enough. They talked about it again on the next one, but it was just kind of recapping the conversation I had with Joe, and we've already talked about it, and it's not that no reason to give any backstory. If you listen to the first episode, you heard some of it. Question to you, as somebody in a year and a half of guitar, how good would you say you got?
I knew everything but my bar chords.
So you knew all the chords. You knew, could you play the neck of the guitar in a key? No. So you don't know any theory.
No, I just knew.
Notes.
Nope. I just knew my chords. I've been watching you, and I thought you've come. Man, you're great. You're playing good as shit now.
So, and that's the question: is, I mean, for a year and a half in, what do you think, as somebody who's done it a year and a half? What do you think in general of where I'm? Honestly, I mean, you could be as brutal as you want.
No, honestly, I think your playing has come a long way. I wish I could play the guitar as well as you play it.
Okay, I'm going to do songs when Joe comes on. That'll be the first time I do it on the podcast.
Because I think it'd be funny as shit that if for whatever reason he's here,
it's a surprise
to just kind of ambush him.
We
with
talked
it.
about it last time too.
Yeah, I know.
If he listens. He listens.
He probably doesn't listen, so I think
it's not going to make a difference if he knows.
Joe, okay, so Joe was at the. Do you know about the Blunt Questions podcast?
No.
Joe was at some party with Katie, which Joe is maybe 25 years older than Katie.
We talked about that.
Okay. So Joe goes to the bathroom.
Yeah, Mike went into long detail about that.
We didn't put it so bluntly.
We didn't cover it.
Like that.
Mike
Good point.
I don't know if you know about Joe's soft pedophilia.
Yes.
But he was on this or he walks away from Katie. He comes back. There's this guy that is flirting with Katie, this drunk guy. And the guy even went as far as to put his finger in the hole, and Katie had a hole
in her jeans.
And she was like, hey, can I have a lighter? Like the guy's hardcore flirting. So Joe just went over there to be like, hey, how's it going? And just was shitting on the guy. And the guy was so drunk, the guy didn't know. Turns out the guy has a podcast called Blunt Questions.
Oh no, I did hear about this on the show. Sorry, not to cut you off.
So Joe is now obsessed with this podcast, loves every second of it. It is the hardest thing to fucking listen to, and I heard every episode of Brian Callahan's podcast. This is a garbage podcast. They have mics on, right? It's video, so it's on YouTube, right? They have their camera set up. Everyone has a mic in front of them, but they are using camera audio for the fucking podcast.
So they're not pulling from the mics?
No,
It's just
why do you have a fucking mic in front if you're not going to use mic'd audio?
Joe's a fan of this podcast.
Loves it. Loves it because he loves to shit on it.
Yeah.
Joe just likes to shit on things. Like
So that's probably why he's listening.
Yeah.
He's probably listening to this right now.
He bought a shirt. He bought a blunt question shirt. He has a notification every time there's a new episode, and he texts all of us in the Murder Mystery group. And I'm like, you don't listen to my podcast, but you will listen to this guy's podcast.
Oh, God.
Oh.
That's interesting. It's good to know that other people see that in him, because I talked about how he only looks on the negative side of things, too. So he's going to have some answering to do.
I'll tell you what, though. It takes a bit. Because Joe can come off as a dick, but he's a really good fucking guy. I really do fucking love Joe.
I just only know him by his interactions by me. When he does me well and he's a good guy to me more, then I will have a different dynamic with him.
I get it. I totally get it.
It's nothing personal. I'm sure he's a good guy. I mean, he's whatever. It was just interesting to say that you don't want that. He said, I just am the type of person that doesn't want to hurt anybody's feelings. I don't want to offend anybody. I don't want anyone mad at me.
Who, Joe said that?
That's what he said.
Yeah.
Very, very sincere, man.
Oh, well.
Very heartfelt. But that's an odd way to be when the first way you describe somebody is that's how he is. He likes to shit on things. He likes to know about things so he can talk shit on them.
He does. Joe loves to hate things.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. And that's just the way he is. You can't, it's in his nature.
I'm telling you, once you get to know him, it's one of those friends that bust balls. And
I'm
he's
cool
a good
with
guy.
that.
Yeah.
I like that to a degree.
Mm-hmm.
You just handle it however you handle it.
You like it until someone starts taking out your guitar
no,
playing.
it has nothing to do specifically with that.
But
it's
you
just
know what?
have no choice
I will
but to
say
shoot
this.
back.
Joe doesn't play guitar.
I know.
Joe doesn't know how hard it is to...
And that's
or
why I
sing.
asked you.
Yeah. I every time you have a video, I'll watch. I'm like, God damn it! If I should have stuck with it, because I want to be able to play like that.
Yeah, do you like it, though?
What, playing guitar?
No, do you like his videos?
Yeah, I like watching him play.
No, do you physically like them?
Do I click
He
like
does.
on it?
He
I
likes
do.
a lot of them.
Oh,
Yeah,
cool.
he actually does. He's very
I
supportive.
put an angry face.
He's
you're-
very supportive.
Then you are a fan.
Yeah,
Yes.
I like when anybody's learning anything new. I'm fucking all about it.
That's the interesting part of the journey, I think, right?
Yeah.
And that's the natural part that a lot of people want to share themselves. And then when you get better and more like solidified in your thing, you don't put it out there as much. Other people kind of do.
Yeah,
It's the nature of stuff that you do.
Yeah, I only put one video of me playing guitar on Facebook, and then I was like, I'm not going to do that again, because that's how long it takes me to learn a song.
It's fucking. It puts you in a vulnerable situation too, man. I don't like that.
Yeah, especially when you're like, hey, here's something that I'm learning. Look at this.
Yeah.
Like, I'd rather be like, because when I'm building a project, no one ever clicks on like, hey guys, I'm learning how to do laser cutting.
Yeah.
No one will ever like that. They just want to see the final product.
Oh yeah, and that I didn't even think about that. That translates into exactly what like the stuff that you do too, with like the leather working and all that kind of shit too.
Yeah, they don't want to see how it's made. They just want to see. No one wants to see you grinding up a horse to make spaghetti.
Yeah, you don't want to see. You don't want to see how the sausage.
Is that how
is
spaghetti's?
made.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
with horses.
I've never made spaghetti.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's how it's done.
Horses.
Horses, spaghetti,
Let's see, anuses, lips.
lips, assholes,
Hot dog spaghetti. That would be great.
Oh,
No.
I'm joking.
that's some poor
With ketchup
people shit.
and mustard. Just
Yeah, that
stir it
is
in.
poor people shit.
Have you seen
We're
the-
in Abingdon, Mike.
They'll cut up hot dogs, and then before they boil the spaghetti, they'll put it through the hot dog, and then you boil it with the hot dog, and so then the spaghetti is through the hot dog.
Wow.
I don't like that.
Yeah,
I don't like hot dogs.
that is some gourmet garbage.
That sounds. I mean,
Yeah, I'm
it's,
not a
it's
huge fan. If I'm at like a ball game or something, if I'm drunk, I'll have a hot dog.
Yeah,
But I'm not gonna. Or if I'm Chicago style hot dogs.
Those are good.
But a regular fucking pig anus,
No.
like thin bologna on a bun, I'm not into.
yeah.
it.
Are you a cooker? You like cooking?
I like to cook. I can make. I have a recipe where I do. I take Gordon Ramsay's recipe for shepherd's pie, and I stuff peppers with it.
Oh, you've
So
done it.
Yeah, I make stuffed peppers, so it has like the mince at the bottom, and then the cheese infused mashed potatoes on top, and
Is
everything.
it cooking as a hobby?
It used to be.
Used to be.
It used to be. I got really into cooking and doing dishes and not doing dishes.
Doing
Well, slow
dishes.
down. That's
I used to
quite a
love
hobby.
cleaning
washing dishes.
I got a couple you can clean up.
Oh man, so hard. My tiny nipples are wrecked.
We'll put sponges on them.
Tommy knows
go to
everything
work.
about washing dishes and like what the do's and don'ts. He's in.
Whoa, dude, is that a citrus-based cleanser?
Using a Brillo pad on that, bro.
You're non-stick coating.
You do not spray Pam on that.
Using a pillow pad on that, bro.
Yeah, he's fucking walking around your kitchen. This thing got a convection bake. Yeah, we could. Gotta say we'll plan another. What do you think? Like another 11 minutes. What we got with the last 11 minutes? Any ideas? Anything fun to talk about? Did you list more things this week?
You have lists?
Steve occasionally brainstorms lists of things to talk about.
And by occasionally, he means
did it one
I
time.
did it once.
Oh.
Yeah. Well, we're an occasional pod,
What about how now there's 2 states that have legalized psilocybin as a recreational drug?
Which states?
Colorado so
the other
county.
one is in
the other one's in California, right? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I do. And then there's another state that's actually having it coming up.
I think
for
it's
vote.
Illinois. It's Illinois.
I thought the second one you were talking about was that.
Really?
Yeah. So now you're going to see people using bullet time to like dodge all the gunfire in Chicago.
Like Neo.
But I heard
It's interesting.
Amsterdam doesn't even, you can't get mushrooms in Amsterdam anymore. Because tourists would go there just to get fucked up on mushrooms and like fall into a fjord or whatever.
Yeah. I heard Amsterdam isn't maybe not like cracking down on their laws, but maybe the police are getting a little bit tighter because of all the tourists just coming in and getting
and they
fucked
think
up.
that nobody gives a fuck anymore.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Colorado's like, hey, do you like to snowboard? Do you like to smoke weed? Do you like to do mushrooms?
Here's some mushrooms on top of it.
The day after they legalized it, I called my friend Sean Savoy, who does shows out in Denver. And I was like, hey, book me on shows. Let's go. So we might be going in August to Colorado.
So what's it come in capsule form?
I have no idea.
Probably come any way you want. I don't know if it's is it voting to make it medical or is it voting to make it recreational?
Hold on. It's already been voted on?
Yeah.
Or it's already passed?
Yeah, it passed.
It just
shit.
It legalizes it. It doesn't mean. I mean, I'm assuming places can sell it. I don't know if that's an FDA regulation. I don't know how it works. I'm sure it's only so illegal. That's nothing. You don't know all the ins and outs.
It's probably like alcohol. Like you have to have a license to sell it. Then I would.
But would you be able to? But you could make your own. You could grow your own.
I don't know.
You could at least forage, maybe.
Well, it would have to fall under like the same category and principle as like weed.
Well, no, weed
because they have grow houses. So,
but weed was.
I mean,
medical.
that shit is on the state level legal, but still federally illegal.
Well, that's definitely true. But as far as just because a state like legalizes it doesn't mean that the only way you can get it is through that. Like in Maryland, I don't know if it's legal to grow your own pot, right?
No,
it's not. No. And I don't know if it's legal to even. I don't know what's legal and what's not, but just because it's not a medicinal thing, at least not yet. But people can do them, so I guess you can just. You can just either pick them or grow them.
Well,
or
I know
something.
with picking them, I know that from picking them, the legality comes into effect, the illegality of how it is dried.
With the mushrooms.
Yeah, if you put them through a mechanical process of drying, then it's assumed that you
because it's
are
manufacturing.
that you are with intent to distribute. Yeah.
In terms of like if you were to just put them in a really dry room.
So I guess distributing them would be illegal.
Yeah,
is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Well, that's because that's how DC gets around all of their laws. Because you can't. I think it's. I'm probably completely wrong, but I think it's like completely legal in DC, but you can't sell it.
Yeah.
Weed.
Yeah.
So you can like sell somebody a $50 jar of apple juice, but then have an eighth attached.
Well, there was
it.
a guy that was selling he got busted, but he was selling his mixtape, And if you bought a $50 copy of his mixtape,
Yeah,
you
you get
a
a
$50 gift.
Yeah, you get an eighth or.
But they
do that a lot.
There's traveling open air markets that happen. I've done shows where people are like, "Hey, we're heading to the open air," and you go in and you buy vouchers at the door, and you can go in and people are selling all sorts of shit.
And then it just
they just give a
that
voucher.
translates into that like, hey, I bought this voucher so I can get your gift. Type deal.
Which is it's so stupid. Just legalize it.
I know. There's no fucking reason.
Well,
for
if
the
they're
prison
going to do
industrial
it,
complex would collapse.
Maybe Colorado is different here, even though they're a state that benefited off of weed big time. The average government is going to say, A, should this be illegal? And B, if we make it legal, how is it going to benefit us? It's probably the process.
Well,
so,
they want taxes.
It benefits the government off of taxes because Colorado is like.
But that's what I'm saying in reference to the saying of, well, why not? It should just be legal. It's like, well, that's not the way our government. I don't think.
Yeah, because the government.
That would be too nice of them.
They have to monetize it.
Yeah, it's
like
I don't
think that you can grow your own tobacco and then make your own cigarettes.
No, actually, I think you can.
You can?
Really?
I think
an idea for a business.
I'm not 100% sure, so don't quote me on this. But I think
you're my legal counsel.
I know. Just a white boy from Abingdon, so yes.
Your Honor, he makes cables and knows the law.
I think you can have on like a predetermined amount of land. I think you can grow tobacco.
Well, I know that you can grow tobacco. I don't know that you can.
For resale.
This country
that you can make your own
founded.
cigarettes and sell them.
Oh, and then that's when it
tobaccos.
comes into the illegal.
Yeah, because wasn't that guy, that Eric Garner, he was choked to death
Hands
for
up.
selling loose cigarettes.
Yeah, that you can't be doing that.
Yeah.
It's totally illegal.
I see it.
Fuck was he thinking?
Fucking idiot.
Those would eventually kill people.
All right, this is a good question for
Cancer.
Steve here. You've never eaten mushrooms, have you?
Oh yeah.
Oh, you have? Okay.
Okay.
Have you had like a big dose
Wait
of
a minute.
them?
How
No.
is this the first time you two have had this conversation?
Because we're work friends.
Oh, okay.
And I didn't have them until towards the end / not working in that, right? You know what I mean? Because we had a couple years we didn't work together.
Yeah.
A few years, almost like, I don't even know if I had, maybe I tried them right when I stopped working or maybe like 9 months later.
I didn't find out that you had started drinking until after we had stopped working.
It's
together.
relatively new.
Well, I actually drank after I had
new
already
thing.
eaten mushrooms and I had already tried DMT.
Once he listened to one Joe Rogan podcast.
Yeah. Oh,
It was
totally,
a
dude.
4-year process, though. It took me. I knew I was going to do DMT. I just had to figure my own thing. It was a long thing. We talked about it already, but
It was rum raisin.
the reason I smoked
cake.
weed was to eventually smoke DMT. The reason I ate mushrooms was to eventually smoke. I knew that's what I wanted to do.
You were training
Everything.
for DMT.
Drinking was just, you know what? I've already done these other things. I don't like the idea of feeling like shit tomorrow, like the next morning. I think I can just be out on dates because I was single again. And I was like, I think I can just have a few drinks with somebody out and it not be a big deal. And I was right. And I've never even really been drunk. So that's the drinking thing. But okay, so
You're
mushrooms.
missing out.
This is what I will say. What would be to somebody who's never done, or how much, like if you had like a very large dose of mushrooms where you've tripped heavy, like have you ever had like closed eye visual type heaviness?
Yeah,
or
yeah.
What?
I've
you hear a
eaten a
recorder?
Foy.
You ever have
Okay.
that? You ever had that where you trip so fucking hard you try to lay down and you just hear a recorder playing like.
Maybe. I
No.
mean,
No, that was my brain. Then. It sounds like a
Well,
kid
it's-
badly
no, I
playing a
believe-
recorder.
I believe you that it can definitely go there. And maybe I'm a little removed. I haven't done like a heavy mushroom trip in a long
Me
time.
neither. I haven't tripped hard.
My favorite mushroom trips are just the like you eat like a gram or two and just kind of
Two grammer is a good evening.
have a good body trip.
Yeah. 5 gram. I haven't
always
done
feel
a
like-
5 gram.
You have?
I haven't done a 5 gram lately.
Do you remember when I had that Super Mario mushroom that was like 8 grams?
Yeah.
Did I ever show you the video of me? I had that, and I smoked DMT on that. That was the hardest I've ever tripped, probably.
So wait, you had one mushroom that was
it was
8.5 grams?
8.5 grams, dude. Giant.
I've had
Why?
Well, I mean, I don't know. It just grew that way.
No, like
Pluses get that
why would
big.
you look at it and be like, okay, I'm gonna eat this?
Because I was curious about tripping. I mean, I was interested in it.
First time doing it.
I-
I'm gonna
I-
eat
it was a great
8.5
time.
grams and just kind
Have
of.
you guys ever
I
seen?
loved it. It was fascinating. It was wild.
Have you
It
ever
was
watched
over.
the show Trailer Park Boys?
Yes.
Okay, it
Yeah.
took me a while to get into it, but
That's how I was with
at
it.
work, I've watched 11 seasons of it. I binge watched it. The end of the 11th episode, they get arrested. They're in an RV, and they know they're going to go to jail because of evading the cops and property damage. But then he was like, "It's not going to be that bad." But then the one guy pulls out 3 pounds of mushrooms. And he was like, "Oh well, when they find this though," and so it's 7 of them. They're like, "We just got to fucking eat all these mushrooms before we surrender to the police." So they split 3 pounds of mushrooms, and then they're in the police cell, and they're like, the one guy's like, "It's been about a half hour, man. It's starting to kick in."
Whoa.
And that was like, "No, it's fine. Everyone's fine." And you hear someone like, "Holy shit!" And they all look off screen. They go, "Oh!" And he was like, and then it pans out. And he's like, "I'm a fucking cartoon." And then they all become cartoons, and that's where the season ends. And then the next season is entirely animated, and the whole premise is that they're still
They're
fucking tripping on these mushrooms.
That would be insane, dude. I can't even imagine that.
3 pounds.
What, eating 3 pounds of mushrooms?
I can't imagine. I wouldn't. I would want to be with like friends who I really want to hang around with, or
Yeah.
be somewhere that I'm really excited to be, to even do an eighth, or want to be through that much of it. It's just because I think once you've done it enough times, it kind of loses its oh, this is
Yeah.
so wild, it's funny, it's
Yeah.
mind blowing, especially when you've done DMT. It's just such a low level experience, which in order to make it through a long one, I kind of like ramping it up with DMT. Like that's kind of like the long form trip for me, is to just peaking it on your own.
Stacking.
Yeah, like now, like mushrooms is like I'm going out and doing something. I'm going to take mushrooms
That's great.
with
Yeah.
me. Like I'll go to the
Hiking.
Renaissance Festival and do mushrooms.
Great. Yeah. You don't even need to look at your phone. You're just going to do your thing. And you're so caught up in it. You can't have a bad time, probably. It might
Yeah.
get a little intense,
That's
but
the last time I ate them, it was like maybe 1.5 grams, and then I was living in the city and just kind of went around. It was like February, just ate them. It was a beautiful day, didn't have work, and just walked around Patterson Park for like 2 hours.
yeah.
Just enjoyed it,
Yeah.
and then went back home and
There's tripping
enjoyed the
like
rest
that,
of it.
and then there's tripping like there's no way I could walk. There's no way I could
yeah.
talk.
Yeah.
There's like I can't even figure out what's happening.
That I mean, there's that aspect of everything. There's that aspect of a trip. There's that aspect of being stoned.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
that
I
aspect
don't-
of being drunk.
I don't like being. There's that uncomfortable high when you're in the
Yeah.
grocery store and you're like, I should.
the
dude,
zombie where you're
yes.
just kind of looking at stuff and
Everything's an experience.
Yeah.
It's
someone's
so
asking
intense.
you a question. You just kind of look at them and go,
Yeah.
give them the
kind-
slow blink.
When
like,
you have to pay and you just say, "Is this enough?"
Yeah, you're the nicest person to deal with, but you're clearly uncomfortable.
Yeah,
Like to
yeah.
them, they're probably looking at you like he's not even looking at me. You're like looking down. You're all like, it's fun though. It's funny to look back on and reflect on, but it's something to go through.
yeah, but it fucking sucks.
Yeah,
in
it's
the
not the
moment.
best.
Yeah. I want to do another big trip soon.
Mushroom?
Yeah, mushroom trip.
Have you done acid?
Yeah.
I've never done acid.
Acid was a bit much.
Yeah.
Acid kind of scares me, but intrigues me.
It's just like if you take, it's the intensity, full intensity of a mushroom trip. If you do like one boop, like one little drop.
Yeah,
It's the full intensity of a mushroom trip just stretched out for 12 hours.
that
Yeah.
sounds.
It's
you're-
different for me, man. But I mean, it is
You've done
longer.
acid?
Yeah. I will tell you this, for me, it is a little bit more of a psychotic looseness feeling, like the screws are loose in a way that's exciting to see, but you don't feel as With mushrooms, it seems like something else a little bit. Like you're picking up on things you don't normally pick up on, and you're seeing things a way that is like a mushroom trip. Acid just screws the looseness. Up isn't up, down isn't down, and you can't comprehend it. Like right now, I can't fully imagine what it might look like. It might be swirls. It kind of dampens certain parts of like visual reality and your senses, but then you do have that like quick, fast-paced thinking, which is similar to a mushroom trip. But acid, I would say you sweat a little more.
Yeah.
You're a little bit more sped up feeling.
Time means nothing on
and
acid.
you can just lose 2 hours if you just put headphones on and lie back. And then when you try to like move around, the come down is a little bit longer, and I don't think there's as nice of an afterglow. Like 10 hours after eating mushrooms, you feel amazing. You feel great to be back. You good. Acid is a little bit like
you kind of
lingers.
feel worn. Yeah, you feel worn down.
Yeah,
Just
draining
excited.
physically
Just beat
and
up.
Yeah,
mentally.
you're like, whew, that was a lot.
Like mushrooms are
My body just went through everything.
Mushrooms are mentally draining in the moment, but rejuvenating to have gone through. Acid is draining to have gone through, period. And afterwards, it just, you feel drained for me. And I do think, as somebody who talks to people extensively about experience and was very cautious about getting in and doing what I did and have done, is that everybody who takes acid too much or like has like 10, 15, 20, maybe 30, maybe they're the person who's done it 50 times, it turns on them. Acid is the one that gives intense PTSD, that makes people not feel like they fully came down. I'm not saying that doesn't happen on other forms of tripping, but acid is the one that scars psychedelia for a lot of people, and it makes it feel kind of evil, or it makes them, you get a lot of people who commit suicide after eating acid.
Really?
Not a lot. I mean, enough.
Well, when the government doses you, it doesn't tell you.
Yeah,
you
when,
throw
when
yourself
you're
out the
when you're a
window.
soldier in the 60s.
And acid is just risky. Like, you can get bad acid. It's like, you don't know exactly what you're getting.
because there's like hairspray.
But mushrooms, it's just, mushrooms are mushrooms. There's so many research chemicals now that make you have a psychedelic experience that have a lot of risk, last even longer. Might be more euphoric in the moment, but burn up your serotonin and you just beat up.
That's one of the things that I'm excited about with mushrooms being legal in Colorado, which probably means that we're going to get higher. We'll probably get some pan-azures out this way, like some flying saucers, and not because there's two types of psilocybin, genus and species wise. You got your psilocybin cubensis, and then you have your Panillus azuris or whatever it is, pan-azures. But and they have 3 times as much psilocybin in them. And and so you're talking intense visual.
I think actually what it is, I think there's psilocybin branches. Cubensis is one form of psilocybin, and there's the Panillus, or however you pronounce it. Because you can do the pan-cyan, like Panillus cyanensis, and there's there might even, I don't know if there's a pan-cubensis, but Panillus and that are 2 big, different, complete species of mushrooms, I guess, or branches of however that works.
But I think Illinois even legalized peyote.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Really?
Which mescaline is the active ingredient that's also in San Pedro cactus. I've never done that.
And ayahuasca. Now the article's coming back to me. Ayahuasca, peyote, and mushrooms.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Ayahuasca is just like
oral DMT.
an awakening, right?
Well, it's an oral DMT. About 30% intensity of DMT, but it lasts like 4 hours.
Fuck that.
DMT's way more intense.
That just means you have to do 3 times as much.
But here's the beauty of smoking DMT on a mushroom trip, is that you get tastes of ayahuasca through that, although it might be a little bit more of like a collage and less like linear and singular. But what happens is mushrooms convert to TMT in the bloodstream, and it presents the trip that you do, so much to the point where that's why I was asking, like, if you've done a ton of them, like even above the 8 grams I did. Some people might do up to, say, 15 grams. Even though they say that off of 5 grams of good mushrooms, you should be able to get like a very peak experience. You can have potential DMT-like breakthroughs on mushrooms. It's been reported and it noted as such. I don't know that it's I guarantee either way, because of the fact that it converts to DMT in the bloodstream, smoking DMT on a mushroom trip will affect not only the DMT trip, the mushroom trip. There will be a synergy, and it'll kind of be peakier than ayahuasca, but vallier as well if you do that. And you might smoke like one hit. You might just ramp it up a little bit, and maybe you'll do that every hour.
So let's do mushrooms.
Oh,
We'll
God.
do DMT.
6-hour
Acid.
podcast.
And then we'll smoke weed
It
out
won't
of a
be-
nitrous
we need a
carb
little bit of
bomb.
Molly just so we can talk through it all.
It won't,
Yeah.
it
Just to
won't
cut through it.
You'll record it and then you play it back and you just hum.
Yeah, it's just people going.
Relax us.
Hey, everybody, our guest this week is this interdimensional being. Please take physical form and introduce yourself.
You think if we mic the entities, they'll talk, man? Dude, where's my
ambient.
entity? That's our new podcast. We just interview DMT entities that we summon in the room.
Yeah, dude, where's my
You got to listen really hard, see if you can
You're
hear
a part of it now.
Yeah.
We're just gonna eat acid, smoke DMT, eat some mushrooms, and then it's gonna be like
I can't wait to do all those drugs in this 10x10 room.
Oh,
It's gonna be a 45-hour saga that we will cut up into hour segments.
Known as Exhibit A.
Yes, and the audience members are encouraged to participate as well.
Yeah, follow the
Yeah,
dosage.
and then if we can learn how to read again while watching a screen. Because I've definitely had mushroom trips that were so strong, we sat down to watch a movie. I remember we used to do mushrooms and go to the fucking goth club, which was way too much.
That
way too much
sounds like it's too much.
And I remember going up to the bartender who, as a bartender at a club, if you talk fast anyway to get the conversation out.
Yeah.
And I was smoking a clove cigarette, and the guy came over and he was like, and I was like, hey, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm doing mushrooms right now, and I can't understand a thing you're saying. And he's like, and like walked away. And then I put my clove out on my finger.
I know what you're talking about, dude. No, I know exactly. I mean, I can relate in a way.
Yeah, you just can't.
Sure.
We watched a movie. We were watching, I think it was Blair Witch Project. We went back to my buddy's place, and his roommate was watching it.
Acid
and I couldn't
jumbles lyrics for
understand
me.
what they were saying on the
Yeah.
TV.
I know exactly. Acid's done that to me, where it like jumbles lyric. You can't understand what you're hearing vocally. That's awesome. Great podcast. We're like right at the hour and a half mark.
Oh, geez,
good.
Mike's calling it.
I think it's
Nice.
I think so. It's good. Hour and a half. It's a good podcast.
Yeah,
We can
or
have
like
Tommy-
90 minutes.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Good with that.
Yeah,
Everyone good?
I'm good.
Cool.
First time on the podcast. Last thing we'll say. What'd you think, Jeff? Fun?
Yeah.
You
Did
talking
you have a
to me?
good time?
Yeah, Tommy.
Oh, yeah, I had a good time.
Cool. Went
It's
well?
hard because the whole time you've been sitting with your back to me.
I know.
Yeah, I'm the only one that's been making eye
Steve,
contact with
what did you think of the podcast,
And
Steve?
you know what?
Did you have fun?
It's been a welcome release because you have taken up more of the talking time than Mike has. You've spoken more than Mike has.
No,
It's a tough
I
challenge.
don't think so. I don't think so. Mike's in the driving seat.
No.
Yeah.
Cool.
Oh,
Yeah.
but like, can I plug my things?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, do that.
Hey,
I'm sorry. You're our first guest. Tell us how we do
I
it.
mean, we got like
Hey, guys.
40 listeners.
Here's a quick
so-
tip, guys. If you have guests, let them plug their shit.
Yeah.
But
Hey, dude, we're just figuring it out. Come on.
No, but I had a really good time. If you guys want to check out, you go to skullbase.net and check out Meanwhile at the Skullbase. Or if you want to check out Laugh Finder, that is laughfinderpod.com. We've had Brian Posehn on. We had Rodney Henry, who owns Dangerously Delicious Pies. He's been on Food Network and stuff. I tried to get Tim Meadows on, but he wasn't feeling
Whatever happened with that?
it. Did not happen. Because I worked with him last time I was in Baltimore, and I went to go see him to ask him if he wanted to be on the podcast. And I was feeling it out. He's like, "So what you been up to?" And I was like, "Oh, well, I do these murder mysteries, and we've toured. We've been in 3 continents and stuff doing murder mysteries. Oh, and I got this podcast." And he was like, "Oh, so about these murder mysteries?" I was like,
Yeah, well,
okay.
he's not a blurred.
Yeah, well, I don't know. He's more. He told me we worked together at the Baltimore Comedy Factory, and he was looking out the door, and he was like, "I've never performed for so many black people." And I was like, "What?"
Tim Meadows?
Yeah, and he was like, "I'm not a black draw. I'm from Saturday Night
I don't
Live."
even like him
Yeah.
that much.
Yeah.
That's what he said. I'm really not a
quote.
fan.
They won't even let me say the word.
Tommy's like, let me tell you about the time I got jumped. Yeah.
Ever caught
Yeah,
anybody with a
I
box
turned to Tim
cutter?
Meadows. I was like, "Oh, Beaver's here."
Okay, so
Sorry, dude,
anything
not
else
to cut
plug?
you off.
No.
Not to cut you off.
Anything else?
Yeah, you can check out our YouTube. Just search Laugh Finder Pod or Laugh Finder on YouTube, and look for the Goblin Head.
Sweet.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thanks, dude.
Awesome.
thanks for
It was
having me.
fun.
Yeah, no
Great.
problem.
Cool.
Later.
Bye.